How's it going? Today I'm going to teach you how to throw off the hump. So normally when you throw on the wheel, like you've cut one ball of clay, put it down, you make a pot. And this time we're going to take a big lump of clay. When I'm making smaller things, I want to throw off the hump because I don't want to wedge 30 little pieces of clay. So I'll wedge a lot of clay, which is easier, and I can cone it up and throw smaller pieces off the hump. First, I'm going to get bored. Okay, so I have a lump of clay here. I've already made a few, and I put them outside. So the next video will be trimming the bowls that we're going to make. So we're going to make some bowls today. So they're a little different than making cylinders on the wheel. So at first I want to get this hump going. So I'm going to start from the bottom, just kind of work the clay just like normal, pull up and start pushing down. But I don't have to center all this clay. All I want to do is center the amount that I'm going to use. So I'm going to pull up a ball of clay that I want to use. Use my pinky on my left hand so I can squeeze it a little bit. That kind of determines the bottom. That's where that would be the wheel head if you're just using one piece of clay. So just like normal, I'm going to let go slowly when it's centered. So release the pressure gradually so that it stays nice and centered. Okay, so now to make a bowl, instead of just sticking my thumbs straight down like a cylinder, I'm going to spread my thumbs out a little bit like this, and that you can see that kind of makes a bowl shape on the bottom. So I'm going to open the clay this way. A little water going. Let it be a little wider at the top, it's okay. So now I've already got a nice bowl shape going, so that makes it a lot easier. Now I don't want to push down past where the bottom is, where I determined the bottom was going to be on the outside. So now to compress, it's the same thing, but I want to follow the wall that I've already started. And I can widen this out a little bit, just pull it open. But I'm pulling a little bit here too, just so it does continue that bowl shape, that contour that you want. So a good bowl doesn't have any breaks in it. It just flows straight down to the bottom. So when you use a spoon with a bowl, you can get that last little bit out. Now compression is the same, so I'm going to keep going back and forth. It's really important, it's even probably more so important throwing off the hump to compress the clay, or you can get S-cracks. So, but even that, you can still get them. That is an S-crack on this bowl right here. It didn't go all the way through, but it is still an S-crack. And it didn't show up until after the glaze firing. I want to really take my time doing this. Alright, so now I'm going to start pulling. I want to compress that rim a little bit. I'm just going to pull straight up. I'm not going to immediately go out because the clay will get weak and it'll fall down. So I'm going to pull straight up, inside hand, fingertips here, start in the center of the clay. My outside hand, instead of using my knuckle because it's a smaller amount of clay, I'm using my fingertip like that. Okay, now I'm going to release some pressure, compress the rim. Need a little water. Keep the rim tight. Probably one or two more pulls and this one will be done. I'm going to go down a little further so I can grab this clay right here. Alright, so now it looks like a cup. I left the rim a little thicker because when I stretch it out, I need some clay up there that's going to give a little bit so it doesn't break right away or get too thin. So this pull is going to go start here and go out. So I'm just taking my outside hand and moving towards myself. So now this has a little more of an angle. It's still not like a curve on the outside. Probably could have left a little more clay at the top. But I don't want to do that too many times. I could do it again, but this time I'm gonna take a rib and I'm gonna use the straight edge and I'm gonna really angle it out a little more. It really depends on what kind of bowl you're making, how wide, how low, or how open you want it to be. Some bowls can be slightly closed. Let's put some consistent pressure against the rib, hold it at an angle, and watch my finger touch the rib through the clay. Yep, it tore. So I'm just going to put a little more pressure on it, try to close it up a little bit. Use a little sponge. One more pull. All right, so that rim looks a little better. It did tear, so I probably wouldn't keep this normally, but I'm gonna go ahead and finish it since we're recording it. So now I'm going to take this rib, this metal flexible rib, and I want to use the curved side instead of the straight side. Curved side is going to go inside at the bottom. Now I'm going to angle it away because the wheel's turning this way. So I'm going to do it like this so that it doesn't stab into the clay. Start at the bottom with a little pressure, start pushing out, and go up. Now the amount of pressure you put on it, just to turn, it depends on how easily the clay is moving. So now that has a nice smooth interior. I could go back in and do it again, but it looks pretty good in there. So I'm just gonna put a little swirl. Now, that's one bowl. I'm gonna fix the rim a little more. The rim is really important. You want to keep a nice rim so it looks finished. Okay, so now I want to take a wooden rib because it's time to take this thing off. So I want to cut a bevel on the bottom just like I would normally. I'm just going to take this and sort of draw a line where I'm going to go, and I'm pushing down on the lump of clay so it kind of flattens out. It creates a base where I don't want to cut below that, and I want it somewhat of an angle away from the bowl so when I take the string through it doesn't catch on the outside. Now I'm going to flip this over and use that to cut underneath. So now I have a good line that I can run my wire through. So I don't want to leave a lot of water in there. There's a little bit. I'm just going to take a quick sponge inside there. And now I'm going to take my wire. So because the wheel is going counterclockwise, I'm going to approach it this way and pull towards me. Try to keep it really level. And it works pretty fast. Take my fingers and pick it up, set it down, and now we're going to make another one. So I want to compress that clay again because some of this stuff that got used got real slippy, and I want to get that off of there. Clay likes to be compressed. So now, when I do this, I'm pushing just like I would normally to center the clay, but I'm pulling this way, and I'm going to pull up into a cone shape. I transfer that pressure from the bottoms of my hands when I start, and it ends up at the top. Most of the pressure is right here on my top fingers, my thumbs. So now I'm going to push this back down again. Get a little more clay there. Because I want this part to stay stable. I want it to stay kind of fat. So I have something to work off of. If it's really skinny and you're trying to do something up here, it can wobble around a lot. So again, I'm just trying to center the top part. The outside doesn't bother me, the bottom half, I mean. Get some good pressure on it. And we're ready to go again. So again, bowl shape with my thumbs. For a bowl, I just don't like flat bottoms on bowls. Now I'm doing the compression. Okay, now let's do a couple pulls. A little wider at the bottom. You can go out a little bit instead of just going straight up and down. But you don't want to do too much. Find my bottom again. Push out. I really don't start moving up until I push out first, so I can see that clay move a little bit, and that's how I know how much pressure to put on the outside. I know it kind of stinks being at home, not being able to do this, but eventually you'll be back here. We're going to make this one a little more closed in. I'll open it up a little more when I use the rib. So I'm just making it a little bit different shape for a bowl. Take my rib, straight rib, just widen this out some. Now I'm going to go a little more straight up and down for that opening part. Take my small sponge for the rim. I like using a smaller, kind of worn out sponge for the rim because it's more flexible instead of you trying to use this big sponge that gets scratchy. Sometimes you can use like a piece of leather, like a chamois cloth, and you can put it on to get a nice smooth rim. I have one somewhere, I just haven't looked for it. I don't use it very often. All right, so this rim is much better than the first one. All right, so now I'm all set. You use the metal rib. So this one, a lot of times I don't mess with the outside of a bowl. I just do the inside, and that usually takes care of the outside. But this one I want to shape it up a little more, because it looks too much like a pot, not enough like a bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up a little more. That's better. Move some of this clay down from the outside. Remember to angle it down away from the pot. This also gets some of the slip and water off of it, so it makes it a little drier when you try to pick it up. If it's too slick, you're going to have a hard time getting it off here. I know the angle of the camera, you probably can't really even see what I'm doing. There. Make sure the rim is nice and round. One last time before I cut it off. All right. Again, take the wire or string, take it like this. What I do is I just sort of pull it this way. I try to keep it straight. Don't angle it too much. Just look at the bottom, what you want to do, and pull straight through. Occasionally take the big sponge and get some of the water and slip off the bottom. So I could keep going like this and make, bowls until I run out of clay. And that's a good way if you're doing any kind of production, like you want to make a lot of one thing, or even if they're different. It's a good way to do this by throwing off the hump. See how fast I can do it. I can go a lot faster when I'm not talking. This one doesn't have a lot of volume in it, so I want to go down at the bottom and really push it out some more. Throwing off the hump is also a good way if you're exploring different forms, because you don't just have to make bowls. Like, you can make cylinders off this. So if you make small pots off the hump, then you get to play around the forms a little bit, because it's a lot faster. You're not constantly getting up and wedging clay, and you have less invested in it, so it's easier to make things that you're willing to throw away. I'm gonna use this one more time. It's not as even as I'd like. So this one is more like angular. I'm gonna bowl it out a little more, but I want to keep it kind of like that. So it's just differences in form for different bowls. You know, they have different purposes. People use them for different things. Take my metal rib again. Again, angling the edge to the right. Do a little push. This one's pretty thin. So I'm just cleaning up that inside line. So really with bowls, like you see the inside of a bowl a lot more than you see the outside. So I really want to pay attention to what the inside of a bowl looks like. This one has a little break in it. I don't like it too much. And you can also play around a little bit with I'm going to lightly take this just so I can move with that. A little decoration I just put on there. Give it one last little swirl in the bottom. Cut it off, and that'll be it. So that's how we're gonna throw them off the hump. Now the next video that I'm gonna do will be, I'll be trimming these bowls. See you later.